Hello, Collective. Welcome to a timeless love variant reading where we discuss however love may be absent or present in your life. Whatever brings you here, bear in mind that you have tapped into a collective reading held by me, 7th, and are planning on using your discernment to take all the bits and pieces that resonate with you and leave anything behind with the reading that may not. This is a non-gender specific reading. However, bear in mind that femininity also encapsulates feminine and masculine energies, and masculinity as well encapsulates feminine and masculine energies. In regards to myself, I am 7th. That is a master healer. And in regards to wanting to know more information, feel free to check out the description box below. That offers some more insight for you. Alright, but again, I'm a master healer, right? That provides remote wellness alignments and tarot intuitive insights. In the description box below, you'll find various other forms of content that I have allocated between two channels that I run, which are sister energies. And I 7th read the energies. Alright, love variant reading for anyone that may be here. Okay. 4 of Swords. Out of place, out of time. Not really getting a lot of answers. Maybe also afraid of speaking the truth. Maybe feel like someone's gaslighting you and you don't really know if you're under a spell or not. Wheel of Fortune is part of that antagonistic energy that you don't know if you're going with or going against a grain of some kind. So you're listening out to your emotions to feel whether or not you feel safe in participating with the person, place, or thing. You're being more or less guided to use your emotions because your challenge is to meet the maker of yourself, which is your intuition, or it's a great beginning conversation. And learning that the intuition can cater a lot of security in just giving itself attention. In the same time, while your intuition is being challenged and maybe traveling, your sense of engagement with people, the way you act, the way you have an opinion, is not really in the likings of other people. I relate. Neither segment or Basset's energy are in the likeness of many people, right? But if we were always adamant to appease people's emotions, we will remain very stagnant in a lot of stages of our life. Jesus, that sound is annoying. Alright, so it's kind of like between a rock and a hard place. Okay, it's moving in tandem with what you know, your belief, your gratitude, your faith, your religion, if you practice, or practicing meditation, practicing just trying to get reacquainted with a routine that wherever you may have started this, however long this routine has been around, that you can learn the stages of maturation of yourself. It's kind of hard to gain logic out of this because I can feel that there, one, are way too many non-direct energies I can speak to. So it's more like a weed hacker, you know, just hacking at some shit and then seeing if I have hit the marker. At the same time, more or less causing a risk that I will maybe insult some energies, maybe piss off the wrong expectation, or contradict myself from another person who reads for thyself or that you listen to. Whatever it is, the personal opinions are going to only affect that of which it is you give your opinion to, which is most likely just going to be the subject matter of yourself, because the intuitive aspect is yourself going into the route of inquiry. So the idea of like sending malice energy to people, it has a I don't want to use the word influence because it does. However, it also does not. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Right there where it is in the ambiguity. Because the emotions are very sensitive for individuals right now. And because political times might be in fluctuations of things, it might also leak into the private notions of how to have normal, everyday, day-to-day conversations. And it's getting harder, maybe for some, to have or continue having the energy that fortifies lovable conversations and conversations of integrity with dignity going in and leaving out of the conversation. Maybe learning that you can balance differences and reach compromisable understandings. You can agree to disagree, or maybe you don't even want to mess with the energy at all. All of it is still very exhausting, and there's no time of being able to get the time within a 7-day calendar or a month's calendar or even annual calendar to make up for what may need healing or addressing or fixing or focus, something. And it's a lot. It's a lot. I think what can offer someone a lot of understanding to all of this is the vibrations of what are tangible. So, which then would more or less mean going back to the very simple of things and not be afraid of hearing the simplifications of that. And then knowing that anything that contradicts that simplicity is maybe a thing for the ego to figure out for itself how they can imbalance or balance some of these concerns that harm simplicity, or take something simple and now makes it complex when the complexity is adding chaos rather than a beautiful emulsion of just differences occurring. Because you can hopefully more or less appreciate the differences of every frequency within the rainbow and accept that every single frequency is adamant to be that what it knows to be, and in it being naturally different and naturally have something to offer for the whole spectrum of it being then called a rainbow. Separate but very equal. Not divided, although it's separate. And we could learn through those subtle face value of what reflects back to us if we have a hard time translating ourselves or transcribing or bringing calm or balance to relationships that are with people. Because with people sometimes we can have we can trigger the ego, we can trigger emotions that are either our responsibility for them to be there or not, or to live with an individual who's the same species as you isn't supposed to be complicated. However, at the same time, should complications arise, it shouldn't be complicated to then also simplify. Yet that in and of itself is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all pill of tranquility here. There's a lot of arguments, to the point where arguing for a majority of the people would be healthy, to know that a good little dosage of arguing is important between two people. Yet to find that practice, to find that ability, to find that possibility, that likeness, that chemistry, requires a lot of self, first and foremost. And with self comes a lot of other things. And not as long, but if we focus a lot on self, we give ourselves permission to be that what we are, and then what we share space with, we are then simultaneously as open as we are open with ourselves, because we're open with a broad sense of view, open to learn new ways, open to learn to grow, open to maybe compromise or demand the truth, explore relationship levels, explore maturity of self and others, compromises, consent, heavy on the boundaries here. Yeah. And when this card comes out, okay, as in this card, Seven of Swords. If for those of you who know my energies, I know this is a young channel, so I'm not going to expect much, but if you are going to be around, you'll see probably a standard reaction to this card. It's like a tick. All right, so what chaos can help you with is help you silence the next storm. Because whatever this chaos is now, you can decide whether or not you're liking or disliking with it. And then whatever you don't like of it, you can learn that for the consensual measures and boundaries that need to happen to occur for that situation to not reoccur, and vice versa. That's being on the better end of the Seven of Swords energy, whatever end that may be. It is a more philosophical approach into making certain steps forward, sidewards, diagonally, laterally, and watching not only yourself draw these decisions and make these moves, but watching other people in the reaction of that choosing. And sometimes these moves can be made without saying a damn thing, because, excuse me, sometimes it's best to watch people's behavior, because in the aspect of seeing how they behave, you can see whether or not their word matches up their actions, and vice versa. And keeping yourself in check in the ability of that interest and, dignity attached, of course, and self-respect. allows you to also simultaneously learn the so-called rules and regulations of showing up to other people with respect and boundaries. That devil wanted to come out. My ego. It's the ego that a lot of people are afraid to dance with. But yet they use it every single moment of the day. Ten of Pentacles. No. Queen of Cups. So what you may have not known you entered within the reading or into the reading, you're probably leaving with as you leave the reading. I don't know what that was. I don't even know if that made sense. But there's a level of groundedness that's definitely coming through here with a Ten of Pentacles. All right, you have 10 earthly coins and then the Queen of Cups, which is saying I'm the what is that, gauntlet? Just gonna say the enclosure to accept that I don't have everything figured out, but I know not everything needs to be figured out, and it's not that time heals wounds. It's the perspective of the moments spent and the evolution of the perspective changing that can more or less offer tranquility, and tranquility is a great space that offers enough that offers a zone for healing. Okay, and healing doesn't necessarily mean you have to cancel all the things that provided you fun before. No, it's just a perspective and the time, attention, and where, with whom, location, what you're consuming, what you're spending, who you're spending time with, what you're paying attention to, who's paying attention, or all the quantum ways of magical currency that may or may not like feed your pockets, but that doesn't also value or devalue your sense of overall ethereal wealth is the amount of money you have in your pocket. It's people are more or less inclined to choose a path of healing. More of you might dabble more in the perspective change of refined choices. If that could be changing what you eat gradually, those are massive milestones. If you can watch what you're consuming in forms of liquids, not drinking that 1 cup less, or drinking that 1 cup less is a major milestone. You know, knowing that if you want to save a relationship or foster a relationship or rekindle a relationship of any kind, it also requires having a relationship of a date or dating yourself, having a sense of matrimony with yourself. Having a sense of matrimony with yourself doesn't say you're selfish. It doesn't say that now because you choose you can't have room or have less availability for others. Actually, you'll have more, much much, much more, because you'll learn where you may also fall short of your own expectations. You may fall short of your own ability to show up to things, or you might show up to knowing when you need to be a bit more affirmative in your action and affirmative of being gratuitous, or giving yourself a pat on the back, or a hug, or a mental like wellness check, or like those things are very important. That if maybe we were told to not be afraid to welcome those things more in our life unapologetically, we wouldn't be looked at with like crazy fucking eyes and lenses for choosing that in an environment where it just might be foreign or different. Like, you don't have to be an outlier in a world of purple for you loving fucking yellow. Maybe you're just like amazing for loving yellow, and the people in the purple world just don't see that yet. And maybe they don't have to, because they're whatever. It isn't whatever for someone of yellow to be like, you give me nothing but bullshit for appeasing to the fact that I do like yellow and I'm not afraid of preaching it. Sticking in a conviction that you have to repeat your emotions is a problem. Not for the pain, but for the fact that no problem should go unaddressed for that long. Everyone deserves an answer in a world where there are always answers. In a world where commodity of equal can be achieved, should be. And yet it's still clear that it's not. And there's a strange vibration in the ether that at the same time one knows this, there's a weird structure of not being as angry. Confused, yes. Anxious, most likely. Afraid of the unknown, we've always been. Uncertain, that's tomorrow. But besides all that, at the end of the day, no matter how many hours I think go by on the ticking of the time clock now with whomever you love or whomever you desire next to love, we'll begin with loving yourself, and we'll end with loving others. And that is a conquest that defines in and of itself whether you believe to be conditional or unconditional, because it starts with however you find yourself to conditionally love your unconditional parts of yourself, and how to continue conditionally setting forth the unconditional act of return. That sense of intellect is wisdom, is experience. So wisdom is achieved by not only yes experience, but frailties, and not always negative, however not always positive. And to swim in that is not to be afraid of learning how to swim. I know you can do like butterfly strokes, all right, some like your froggy kicks, all right. You can also float, but don't be afraid to learn how to swim. And with that comes in beautiful, I think, for those of you who are just interested in finding the relationship that you have, or the one anticipatory to have, is separate but equal. You know, separate in a way of realizing, okay, I can't fix your broken, and I would never want to fix the broken, because without that you are not who you are. But it doesn't define what you are, and it is not it's not stamped, as in it's always evolving, it's always changing. Although the blue sky might look blue all the time, it may change the amount of blue that you see, the rich color of contrast and saturation of the blue, and then realize that it's a lie. blue is not a real color. Okay, in the concept of seeing in the sky. So I think Earth and its mystery of living within it has a Pandora's box of mystery that one should not explore and be in fucking fear. Okay, you come from this. Yeah, look at this. You come from this sense that like you're fearing the energies where you come from. It's sad as a collective, you know. It's sad as a collective. It's one of the reasons why I've always wanted to heal people. Who the fragile souls don't want to heal the fucking world, right? I was one of them. But there you have these mini rainbow soldiers who just like, no, we're vibing on so many color frequencies as opportunity. And yes, orange might be a little down right now, but boost up red and boost up yellow, and we can help out orange, you know? Inclusivity. It's so hard for people. It's so hard. It's so hard. They think that because their emotions are triggered that it's logical. And so with expressing emotions, your emotions has a valid opinion. Not your emotions have any valued opinion. Not that they don't matter, but it's not trustworthy. It's like when you understand a bit about the psychology. I'm not a master of it, okay? Profession or none of that. I'm just saying these are my thoughts. When you think about like crime and then the eyewitness approach to that, someone who's most likely tied to a crime situation is most likely experiencing a traumatic experience at that moment. And so memory in the aspect of it being then the eyewitness approach isn't necessarily, and this is also in a science base, trustworthy. It's not that it's not valid or not important or not helpful or can't sway an opinion. No, but it is also flawed, and that needs to be accepted for how delicious, in my opinion, the mind is complex and the mind is fucking picky, and letting somebody know what is of purity, what is of artificial, and what is of toxicity. The mind is fucking picky, and since the mind is mute and can't talk to you, it will talk through you with what it is you know how to transcribe it with and for. That is a reactionary process on what it means to be just human, and how we relate with other people, and how that relation with people shapes us, makes us, bends us, and all that jazz. And what we then will also show up to, you know. Because separate and equal allows us to understand, all right, you know, I love you for what it is that you have. All parts of you that you've experienced make you for what it is that you are now. And that is what is important. That's true form of respect. Being in the present moment at all times. Which is a feat. It becomes easier to be in the present moment when you realize you don't have to worry about past, present, and future. You give yourself a permission to breathe and then be concerned with what is left after that breath. That wad came out and the devil's leading that. It's the ego, alright? 𝗖𝘀𝗵𝗔𝗽𝗽, who reads these energies, challenge always the devil energy to be that of the ego that doesn't know whether or not it's operating of light and or darkness, so wants to play a game. Helps explain also to a sorts. Sometimes you make decisions that maybe you knew or didn't know you were going to make. Or maybe they were made for you. In that dance alone, that's where we can argumentatively speak. Is that the devil energy? Were you forced to do it? Did you do something naughty? Did you sign away your soul? Anyway. Alright. 8 of Wands with the 6 of Swords. So wherever you felt like you needed to change, you're changing. You know, not at the request of another person. No changes can be made at somebody's request. They can say whatever they want, and they could be given respect for the fact that, yeah, they said it, and if you changed or they change, that there was an influence set by either or. However, that's not what fundamentally happened. What fundamentally may have occurred is that the conscious and the subconscious, which are separate but equal, have a continuing sense of power struggle at all times, where the ego is aware of the consciousness, and the consciousness is always at a demand and request of the subconscious. So when you figure out what consciousness is, and then figure out what subconscious is compared to that, and then what human expression is from sunrise to sunset, you then can start compartmentalizing what ego is, and what soul self is, and what that means to have maybe a spiritual relationship with ourselves, and then a healthy emotional relationship with those we love. So it could be really difficult right now to keep a happy home, and not because of emotional, but maybe because of material. You know, with the ongoing political earthly changes, it's sometimes hard to get a better understanding for how to secure one's future. And I understand it's very unsettling. It's very unsettling for anyone that's eager to want to show up to a service, or wants to heal, or be supportive for people, or wants to make change, or wants to have justice be done for the fairness of all. That to not lose sight of the bigger picture is difficult. To remain in control with your own mental wellness is of utmost importance here. It's not about this being uncertain times, because for that, they're not very uncertain. They just might be unknown to you, but shouldn't be too uncertain. Okay. There are massive opportunities for you to play catch up with what you may or may not understand in the realm of meditation here. Like, it's, yeah, like, if you were to sit down and meditate, you'd get more you'd get more. Like, I can't explain this any other way besides, like, let's say even if you're up to the very moment before this reading you meditated, there's something that I would like want to trigger and say, you go back to that meditation after this reading, or you start another meditation after this reading. There's something there that's gonna be like different than any of the meditations that you've had before. Even if you've never meditated before, you're usually somebody who needed guided meditation, or you haven't been out of practice, whatever it is. Something is just gonna come and help you make sense of things. Not maybe resolve everything or have an answer to everything, but at least is gonna give you a sense of like, okay, what now? Not a wait, what? Not a fuck off. Not a oh, too much. Just a what now? And may that moment come for you. May that moment of clarity and then answer be made available with yourself. This will greatly improve your relationship with anyone, because taking yourself seriously in that note of that self-inquiry is something that many people can do, which is probably something that you might be guilty of because you might have reasons as to why you haven't done it. Maybe time, insecurity, know-how, confidence, whatever it is. But it doesn't devalue that someone else might be intrigued with what it is that you're doing for yourself, because they'll see, oh, you're taking yourself very seriously. And no shit, you should. Yourself is all you got. You came in solo, you're leaving solo. Your biggest, highest form of, well, one of the said highest form of devotion you can place for some people is the idea of holy matrimony, and then death do you part. In the realm of sustainable eternal energy, there is no death do you part. Actually, you're going back home, so more or less you're kind of going back in the beginning, right? You're going back to where it all began, and excited to do it all over again. Once we can have a script change, like the script change of the bullshit of humanity, For those of you who've been dabbling in conspiracy theories, it's plenty of them out there. But the way it translates into the various ways of love, how ironic that this is still about a love reading, is that it does become political. It becomes political with yourself. Who are you with your ego? What does your ego do? And when your ego doesn't know or does know, or pounces back between what it thinks is light and what is darkness, how do you bring that to tangibility in a world of color? In a world where people can feel so much, which is not fucking black and white. Nine of Swords. So you're looking at a better angle at the things that may trigger you and be predatorial towards you or feel like out to get you. You're like staring the predator in the eye and be like, the more I look at you, the more I realize I don't really have anything to fear. Like, you can't really harm me. And that's a power move. That's a big power move. Big power move. You learn your own rules and regulations to the game, and hold other people accountable of the same. And then you will realize all rules get broken, and all regulations are not law. All right, with that, collective, that is all that I have for you at this time. I'm wishing you a wonderful morning, noon, or night, wherever you are in the ether of this time and space. And may you keep flowing, growing, and glowing. Take care.